Hey everyone, and welcome to the Games Are Fun podcast. Today we are giving you a special episode of the PS5 exclusive Returnal. We are giving our review. My name is Luke Armstrong. I'm your host. Joining me are two wonderful people. First off, we have Adam Beagle. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited for this episode and talk about a great game and excited for our special guest that we have with us here too.
Yes, absolutely. We have a special guest joining us today. The Games Are Fun podcast community might know him as BLP Entertainment or his more juvenile name, But Lord Primus, that he was formerly known as. We have James Halliday joining us. James, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I don't know if you can see it, but I just got my vaccination
Yes.
sticker.
Woo.
That's I was pretty stoked to get that. Has
Yeah.
been some time. So I'm feeling good, and in a few hours I'm probably gonna be feel real bad.
Well, yeah. Well, let's hope you make by hopefully with no out too many symptoms tomorrow and everything like that. That sounds like which vaccination did you get out of curiosity?
I got the Moderna,
Okay, I don't know
Pacific Heart.
anything about that, but that's like the question everyone asks me, so I feel like it's like my due diligence to ask it now, right? Of
Yeah,
like,
I
you know,
think the gist is like Pfizer and Moderna are up there at like 90 or
hmm
95% or something like that, real high. And then the AstraZeneca is at a 65, but that's not a bad thing because as long as the like most of the population is above 50% immune, then everything's going to be going
right,
good. So if you don't get the first two, getting the AstraZeneca is also really good.
yeah, for sure. And as time continues, like the biggest thing for like you and I, James, we're Canadian, and the rollout of vaccines in Canada compared to our neighbors down below has been a lot slower. So yeah, we like I'm ecstatic that you were able to get yours. I get mine in like 2 weeks, my first dose as well. So hopefully by like end of summer, most people have been able to get their hands on it. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And a good reminder to go get vaccinated to
Get
anyone listening.
vaccinated.
Yes. Um, well, welcome in, James. We're really happy to have you on. Before we swing into the action, we wanted to mention that episodes of Games Are Fun air every single week. Each week, Adam, myself, Steven, and sometimes a guest like James or Nishon, like we had a couple weeks ago, we join together to talk about video games. We talk about recent game releases, give reviews on those recent game releases. We also talk about video game news, trending industry topics, and pretty much everything video games we talk about here on Games Are Fun. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all your pretty much mainstream podcast services. All you have to do is search for Games Are Fun podcast on your podcast platform of choice, and it should pop up on there. Also, this episode is being live streamed over on twitch.tv/. Games Are Fun podcast. So if you're not catching these live shows, you got to catch them live. They're a lot of fun. We got chat going on while the shows are being recorded, so it's like you're missing this meta show that's going on in the side. So make sure you're coming out to those. But if you can't catch the show live, all the live streams are archived on our Twitch, as well as upload on our YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this right now, we would super appreciate it if you took 5 seconds to go into the show notes of this episode, click that YouTube channel link, and subscribe to that channel. We're trying to get as many subscribers as we can so we can get that custom YouTube URL link, which is a huge achievement, actually. You need like 1,000 subscribers, and I'm like, man, that seems like a pretty hefty ask, but I guess you got to do it if you want that custom URL. So please sub over on our YouTube channel. And Lordly in our Twitch chat just now pointed out that we weren't recording last week. Oh, and the week before that because we got lazy, which is pretty much true. So I will say apologies for the last couple weeks. We haven't done an episode. Just like a whole lot going on, especially with me. Just like a lot of mental health stuff. Started new medication. And so it hasn't been as easy to coordinate the show. So thank you for your patience, but I have something really exciting to share because not only are you getting one episode of the Games Are Fun podcast this week, you're getting two episodes this week. The first one being our Returnal review, and tomorrow over on Twitch. That is May 13th over on twitch.tv/games are fun podcast. Lord the King S. Dot. And Adam, are you joining in on this one? Or are you going to skip it?
I don't believe so. I
Okay.
haven't put enough time into
Fair
it.
enough. Yeah, well, Lordly King S. Dot and I are going to be giving our review of Pokemon Snap for the Nintendo Switch. We're really excited. Steven probably has way more hours in it, and it will probably have a lot to share. Yeah, he says, I've played 50 hours. I need to check mine. I feel like I got to be at like 20 something hours. We'll see. But we're going to be doing that on May 13th, 6:30 p.m., twitch.tv/games are fun podcast. And it will go up on audio services as well as YouTube the next day on the
I
Friday.
gotta say, I'm a little surprised he only has 50 hours in, considering that he had, what was it, like 24 hours when the game wasn't even a full 2 days old at the time, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nuts. That release date was like I couldn't believe like how many hours you logged into that. But anyways. All right, let's jump into this review, guys. So Returnal. So I'm going to start with you, James, our guest. So what we're going to do is we're going to go quick impressions. Okay, so I thought it'd be good to kind of just start off with, what do we think of the game as overall with our experience? Have we completed it? Have we rolled credits on it? And in my case, are you still trying to beat it? And, maybe just kind of give your overall take of it.
Cool. Wow. Why don't you just dump that all on me
Yeah,
at once?
exactly.
I have not beaten it yet, but I've been playing a lot of it, and it doesn't help that Resident Evil Village also came out like literally the next week. But I have been enjoying it immensely. I've been coming back to it even with Resident Evil. I just shelve Resident Evil for a bit and then play like 2 nights of Returnal. So I got to about, I think, the 5th biome now, but it's been it's been kicking my ass for sure. I'm loving it.
Nice.
It's everything I want out of, like, I'm not even a huge fan of that the roguelite genres with procedural generated levels, but what I've been playing of it has been like the atmosphere, the gameplay, the mechanics, everything about it is super appealing to me, and I absolutely love sci-fi, so that helps a lot. So yeah, it's been a huge plus. It's been my so far game of the year.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so far game of the year for me as well. Although I know we're coming into gaming season, there's going to be a lot of strong entries coming up, so we'll see if it can hold the crown and for how long. But yeah, it's really great. Really enjoying it. I'm not sure at what point I did roll credits on it, but I haven't done everything you can do in the game. I have 22 hours logged into it, but some of that was like post completion of
Right.
the game, or at least I don't know if you want to call it the sort of neutral ending or normal ending, I guess. I don't want to get too much into spoiler territory here, but so there's more that I can do, but I have beaten it, I guess, in under that 22 hours, maybe somewhere around like 18, 19 that I rolled credits, and then I put a few extra hours in after the fact, but really enjoying it so far. It's really great. Highly recommended if you have a PlayStation 5. It's a great it's a great use of the controller that I kind of had some beef with it at the start, but I really came around on it, and it really does display the graphical power of the PlayStation 5 as well as the dual sense controller.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have a point made to talk a little bit about the PS5 DualSense, so we can talk a little bit about that because yeah, they're really trying to show off that new piece of hardware with their, first big first party game of 2021 and still kind of in that launch window of the PS5. So definitely going to talk about that. My overall impressions of it is, so first of all, I have not beat it, okay? I I wish I had beaten it by this point, but I have not because this game is extremely challenging for me. Yeah, Adam's shaking his head over here, and I'm over here like a couple days it came out. I felt okay because you, James, you were saying like you had a couple issues too. So I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. I'm like, Adam's just probably some insane person who is the one off, and then you're starting to get the hang of it, and I'm still left behind, and I just feel like, man, I don't know what it is with this game, but I can't. I don't know. So I will preface it by saying this genre you mentioned, James, of roguelite, I'm also not that's not really my wheelhouse. I'm not really a fan of those types of games because they usually are a bit of a challenge, and I sometimes don't have the patience for those types of games. And it's weird because I like playing it and I enjoy the loop of it. But what is infuriating is when I feel like I get a really good run and I get to a situation where I just get bombarded with enemies or I get backed into a corner in the wrong way and my health situation, or I get the roll of the dice and my seed or whatever of my run is like just more challenging, like to progress through what my objective, right? So I don't like that like inconsistency of the runs, but um I don't know, it's really hard to like give an overall impression when I'm left not really infuriated by it and really mad at like not being able to progress any further, but at the same time enjoying what I've played so far and like still a little bit inside me wanting to keep pushing forward for it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I love-hate relationship right now.
Yeah, you both mentioned the roguelite thing, and I will say that I am a big fan of roguelike games, roguelikes, roguelites, whatever. I'm a big fan of that genre. So I'm not saying that that is what makes the game easy for me, because this is a fully 3D roguelike game. Like, this is unlike any other rogue like game that I've played, because they're typically all 2D or top down or something to that effect. So I can't even say that I've had experience in that genre of gaming, because this is totally different. Again, totally 3D. It just, I don't know, it just clicked with me, and I kind of breezed through. I consider it a lot easier than most roguelike games, to be honest. But it's great. It's
Well,
good.
look at you. Look at you.
That wasn't meant to be
No,
like
I
a
just kidding.
tooting
I'm
my
just
own
kidding.
horn, but that'll come later. That
Yeah.
comes later.
Yeah. Um okay. So it sounds like you really like it, James. Adam, you obviously really like it. I'm still kind of like on the fence with it, but our impressions are good. So at any moment, like leading up to this game's release, did either of you have any hesitation about it? Because, this is Housemark, right? They typically have made more arcadey type of games, smaller in scale, I guess. You could say this is their really first big game to this level of fidelity and size. And there was a lot of people I think leading up to this game's release that were on the fence of like, I don't know if this is a game for me. I'm not sure what to make of it yet. We've gotten a couple trailers. I don't necessarily know what the loop is yet. At what moment like were you sold to check out this game? And then now that you've played it, did it meet those expectations? So James, I'll go back to you because it's been a minute since you've talked.
Yeah, when they first revealed it, God, it was during one of the state of plays, right? It was last year, just coming up for the PS5, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing it, and I remember sitting going, okay, so it's Alien meets Groundhog's Day, kind of, I get it, and I figured, you know what, I'll throw it down on my list, but it's very low on my priorities of games to get. And then as we got closer, they started revealing a little bit more, and the trailers. I think it was a few weeks before the game actually released, where I was watching one of their newest trailers, and I mean, like, I was like, I'm sold. Like everything in it. From I started to see more of the aesthetic. I started seeing the atmosphere in the world, and hearing stuff about the controller, and I was like, you know what? I'm in. Like I just everything about this. Alien's my favorite movie. Like one of my favorite movies. As far as sci-fi goes, it's my top. Like I watch Alien over Star Wars any day. I just absolutely love the atmosphere. I love H.R. Giger's designs and all of the creatures, and I get every ounce of that from this game. And so, like, seeing more of it and seeing how it actually progressed, I was like, you know what, I can play this game. I know I can do it. So I got on board and I pre-ordered it.
Nice. That's awesome. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think this was one that I was kind of sold on from the beginning when they showed it at the PlayStation 5 reveal event that they had, because it did, like, as soon as I saw it, it did instantly give those vibes of, okay, this is a sci-fi shooter roguelike, Dark Souls-like game, and it just instantly appealed to me, and I was like, okay, this is definitely on my radar. And then kind of like what James was saying, when they had their most recent like demo or gameplay showcase or whatever you want to call it, trailer, it really sealed the deal for me. I'm like, this is it. This is a day one purchase for sure. And I was definitely not disappointed. It did live up to the expectations for sure. Um, yeah, it's pretty much what I was expecting. A little less Dark Souls than I was expecting, but definitely the roguelike, that sort of roguelike experience that I was looking for. It was great.
Yeah, I kind of like went almost in a reverse way, I would guess, is like I was really hyped and then as it got closer to launch, I became more skeptical because then I started realizing like okay, this game is looking more and more challenging every time they like had shown off gameplay, and when they did show off that big chunk of gameplay for the first time, I was like really like man, that looks incredible, but for Luke, is that going to be a game that he's going to be able to take on? And now that I've gone into it, I realized really early on it's like it wasn't regret, but it was just like, okay, what did I get myself into here? Maybe I should have let it simmer a little bit before and to see if it was my type of game. Hear what people had to say of it, but um, I don't have the regret. I'm glad that I bought it. I'm glad I like could be part of the conversation and see how this game could possibly evolve. If they do add anything to, because that is the rumor, right? That's kind of floated around online, which we can talk about a little bit later. All right. Well, let's talk about the gameplay. So the gameplay loop for those who have not really seen Returnal or watched any sort of gameplay and don't understand what Returnal is. It's like a third person action roguelite we're throwing around that word and basically Adam, why don't you kind of explain what roguelite means as a definition, and then you can kind of explain how Returnal has how its take is on that genre.
Yeah, so you hear roguelikes and roguelites a lot. And so what roguelikes are is that, think like Spelunky, right? As you play through, the only way that you get better at the game is by getting better, literally getting better at the game. You have to level up as a player and a person to get better and progress further into those games. Any unlocks are purely cosmetic, like characters that you unlock in a game like Spelunky. It's just purely cosmetic. There's nothing that you unlock later in the game. Everything is just there, and it's up to you to gain the knowledge to get further, to just get better, become more familiar with the stages. Because every time you die, you are back to essentially nothing, and it's up to you again to be better and to have more knowledge of the game to progress further. Roguelites, on the other hand, typically have some sort of mechanic or element that carries over to another run with you. So it could be, in the case of something like the Binding of Isaac, right? You unlock an item that you can find in another run that gives you different power ups. It's the same thing with like Rogue Legacy. You can obtain sometimes, in the case of Legacy, you would obtain currency that you can then spend between runs that will give you permanent bonuses to health or damage, or unlock new characters that do have some sort of gameplay value to them instead of just cosmetic differences. So Returnal definitely falls in that roguelite, although it's very minimal, I would say, because most of what you carry with you is going to be removed at the end of a run. You're not getting any permanent stat bonuses. There is one form of currency that carries over, but the I'd say maybe like the primary form of currency does get removed at each death. The power ups that you collect along the way, those are removed aside from a select few, but for the most part, you're losing everything when you finish. But there is enough there that you can unlock to open up in other runs or to have permanently equipped that it definitely falls in the roguelite category.
Right. Yeah, and with each run, you're basically it's procedurally generated, right? So each kind of these biomes, they're like kind of like environments, right? That they're kind of each biome is a different kind of atmosphere and environment, and when you go into them, they're procedurally generated at some point. Well, at least with me, I could tell you all there is to know about the ancient ruins because I have like probably studied every square inch that I can so far of the square ancient ruins. But yeah, so and then you do get things that you can then realize, oh, there's certain parts that I couldn't access in some of these rooms that I went into that now I have items that can kind of get me to those locations within them. So even though you go into these biomes, you kind of have to go through. At least I don't know how the game changes. At least with the first two, you have to, like, when you die in the second biome, you're back at the ship starting at the first biome. You got to go through the first biome, make your way back into the second biome, and try to make your way. You don't just start at the second biome. So I'm assuming that's the same case with third biome, fourth biome, fifth biome, guys.
Now, the difference is that your progression to open up those biomes is permanent.
Oh,
So you
okay.
don't have to necessarily beat the boss of the first biome every time you want to get to the second biome.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so there's things like that that can kind of create little shortcuts to where you can get to another biome a lot quicker than it took you to get there the first time around.
Yeah. My thing with it that's so annoying is like when you go into the next round, say you die on a run, yeah, you've had that like unlocked because you beat that biome's boss, but it's like that door to get to the second biome could be in like the third room you get into, or it could be in the 10th room. And it's like it can be frustrating because you can go room to room. It doesn't lock down the room and you have to defeat all the enemies, except for in certain occasions it does do that. And so you can stumble across a room where it's like, hey, you got to defeat all the enemies in here. Like, you can't run. You got to take them on. So that could be frustrating when I'm trying to get through the second biome, but like I'll get a seed that's like, oh my gosh, we're in like the 10th room and I'm just trying to get back to a spot that I'm way past already. Like, yeah,
So the
anyways.
thing is though, like if you're in a run where it's taking you 10 rooms to get to the door to the second biome, that's 10 rooms where you're potentially collecting
Yeah,
power-ups
yeah,
that
for
will
sure.
benefit you going into that segment. Whereas if you find the door to biome 2 right off the bat, you might be going in there somewhat, you know, light
Hmm.
with your power-ups, your weapons, things like that. In which case you might go in and just get totally destroyed because you don't have enough going in there to give you an advantage.
Yeah.
They do give you that little boost. It's not enough, but it's like they'll like you pick up an item in the first area of every biome that just ups your proficiency. So at least you're not starting off completely
Yes. Hmm.
hamstrung. But yeah, no, even with like sequential runs, I will go through a biome that I've already cleared just to collect enough of the upgrades or whatnot, get my health up, get my a couple parasites on me or whatever, and then move on to the next level or
Yeah.
next biome, I guess.
So I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit more about like some of the gameplay, specifically the enemies. So within, you guys have seen way more enemies than I have. I have only seen, a select few from the first and second biome, and the enemy design is pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys have any ones specifically that you wanted to talk about, but all the enemies that I've seen so far basically are shooting projectiles at you, and you kind of are platforming to avoid these while you're either shooting back at them. You can use melee, so you can kind of try to platform your way towards them. There's a dash function, but there's a lot of platforming in just trying to avoid these projectiles that are being shot at you by the enemies. So, James, like, was there a specific enemy or group of enemies that like you wanted to talk about, maybe a boss or anything that like really grabbed your attention?
First of all, I'm going to talk about the worst enemy.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, and you've seen it, Luke. You've
Okay.
seen it. I guarantee. This guy gives me so much trouble, and it's insane how much trouble they give me. It's the I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they look like cloakers from Dungeons and Dragons. They're these giant like bat manta rays, and they just kind of hover around,
Yeah.
and then for a brief second they'll glow and then fire at you real fast, like their whole body. And I don't know what about it is. It is I can't get the timing right to dodge them, and like they make a sound. Everything there's audio cues,
Yeah.
there's visual cues, but the problem is they all swarm around you like in a circle, like a bunch of bees. And there's probably 8 of them in an area, plus enemies that are shooting at you. So I just find it so hard to like focus on all of them. And it's always the one behind me that's going to be dashing at me. So I'll hear a noise, dash, and oh, it was the wrong noise. And then it hits me, or I too early. And God, I hate them so much.
Yeah.
I've done runs where I've passed the portal to the next area, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna collect some items. Open the next door, just a bunch of bats, and I'm like, screw this. Turn around, get back in that
Yeah.
portal. I'll go to the next level. I'll take my chances.
Yeah, those
Because
those those ones are giving me a pain too. So like the fact that you mentioned them, I had a brief rage moment with those enemies too.
they rarely kill me,
Yeah.
but
They're
they
just more of a
always just
nuisance. Yeah.
take out so
Yeah.
much of my health that I'm always trying to play catch up. So yeah, that one specifically, it was a was one that I'd want to talk about. But as far as like the I think they're Kira Onyx or whatever, the big dog like creatures that
Hmm.
that glow and shoot at you. I actually really like their design, and I find them really like the way they move around the level, everything from their tentacles and like just the way their legs are literally just a series of tentacles that have become legs. And I don't know, just the way they move, and I enjoy fighting them, even the hard ones, because it just I like watching them while I fight them. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like visually pleasing.
Yeah.
And I felt that way about the first boss as well. Shrike or Frike, whatever
Yeah.
his name
Yeah.
was. Um, Fighting him, I really liked his aesthetic. I liked it. So like even losing to him and knowing that I had to get back up to him, I was like, you know what? I don't mind it,
Yeah.
because I get to like I feel like I'm in the presence of something really cool. And just watching because each boss has their stages, right? And watching them like get a little bit more worked up or aggressive. Anyway, those are some of my favorites.
Nice. Yeah, the 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 amount of like tentacles in this game is like they are not shying on the tentacles. So if like tentacles creep you out, I'm gonna say like maybe avoid Returnal because pretty much everything has tentacles.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Adam, how about you?
I would say for me, the maybe the ones that kind of annoy me the most are not the flying bat ones that James talked about, but there's another flying enemy in the ruins that just that. And again, not to get too spoily, but there's more powerful versions of them later that just absolutely drive me nuts. They absolute craziness. I hate them. I hate them so much because there's always a ton of them. There's always you walk into a door and boom, you're getting swarmed by these things, and the projectiles that they shoot are extremely disruptive, can be very hard to dodge when there's a lot of them going off at once, and basically requires good dodging and good jumping, or you're going to take a lot of hits. And so they can be kind of difficult if you can't sort of pick them off one at a time, or sort of funnel them into like a small space. They also are pretty good at not letting you do door cheese because of their projectile types. And again, that's sort of on upgraded version of them, I guess you could call them. But yeah, they take away some of the potential door cheese, and some of the ones I like the most are called the severed. So as you kind of explore, you find that there was a sort of like sentient race, kind of reminiscent of like the Chozo from the Metroid series, where there's a lot of lore, there's ruins, technology that they've had, but there's a group of them that basically had their minds warped and turned them into crazies, and they killed all the other ones that were sane. And so you'll come across them, and they're fairly rare, but they're quite powerful. They have a very wide range of moves that, 1 second they're shooting at you from across the room, and then all of a sudden they're teleporting behind you and they're trying to do like a melee strike. So their move set is really varied. They're super cool looking. The lore behind them is fantastic. So I like them a lot. They can also be extremely challenging though. Uh, uh, and again, later in the game they get even more so. Uh, and then pretty much all the bosses. I love the bosses in this game. The design, the challenge, uh, just the overall sort of dread that you get when you walk into a boss chamber. It's also good. Like the atmosphere that comes with it. And again, the design on them is fantastic. The Biome 2 boss is one of my favorites, along with Biome 4, which was just really, really interesting. The Biome 4 boss was really interesting. There's also, uh, this will be spoiler, but there's a boss that was very, very cinematic, I guess you could call, a little bit of a pain to fight. Not much, I will say not much fun to fight, but the sort of set piece moment that it had with it was pretty incredible. So that'll be fun to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, bosses, all fantastic. Um, and kind of worth playing just for those fights. I will say a little bit of a flex here. The Biome 2 boss was the only one to beat me. All the other bosses I killed on first try. Every single one of them.
Okay, well now is my chance to like when I get to the biome boss in the second biome, I'm beating him first try at him, so I can at least hold that above you. Just to,
So, and
Hey, Luke.
here's kind of the funny thing too, is that there are sort of like reanimators that you can interact with in each biome, where you spend some of your permanent currency that you get to sort of revive within that biome with the your gear that you had. So fortunately, I had used that. So when I died, I didn't have to reset my run. I don't know if that counted as a death or not by the game standards, but I did go back up and I tore it a new one the second time around. Didn't stand a chance. But yeah, it was a really fun fight though. I will say that. Very cool fight.
Yeah, Luke, don't worry about it because Adam's just lying. He the the second boss is totally easy. I
yeah.
beat him my first try.
Oh, look at
It's
that.
it's probably one that you could beat first try. It's really not all that difficult. I got sort of confused by the second phase and I took a lot of damage. And so yeah, I think honestly you probably could do it first try. I think it was fairly easy in retrospect.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you right now that if I ever see the boss, I won't be the first try. I can guarantee you.
You can do it.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
now
we'll see.
you gotta have confidence.
Yeah.
It's all about getting that perfect run where everything keeps lining up, all your powers just keep uh, working
Hmm.
together. And that's the thing is, I actually the run that I beat the second boss on was I beat the first boss on stream for the first time, and I was stoked. Everybody was watching me, and then I was like, well, I gotta go do what I'm actually supposed to be streaming. So I put the game into sleep mode, and literally after my stream, I popped it back on. I continued playing, and that run, just everything just started working for me,
Right.
working. Got through that boss in the second biome, got into the third biome, got to the boss of the third biome, just got wrecked, and I was like, oh well, that's the end of that
Yeah.
train.
Yeah.
And I got stuck there, right? And that like trying to get back to the third boss
Right.
every time. And yeah, just never got that same flow until the other night. And yeah,
The
so I find
Biome
like
3 boss being able to having one shot at that is really the thing that I like to hang my hat on. Getting that fight first try, um, I think that was a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, that's insane. I see what happened is I made it to the boss in the first biome on like my third or fourth run. Like I felt like I was whenever I you got like the sword or whatever. From that point on, I was like, yeah, I was feeling good. And then when I got to the boss and died, it's just like it just is such a crush because it's like you know what you took to get there, and some runs you get to a boss quicker than others, but that particular one I did have a run where I was like getting lots of upgrades. I had saved lots of currency up, and it was like this is the run, and it wasn't, and it wasn't it like it just it makes you so upset, and it's definitely one of those games that when you have a game like Celeste that's very challenging, right? You die, you start back over, and you're just moving along, right? With this, it's like you stare at the screen and you see the ship falling and crashing down to the earth, and you're just like, you feel empty, you feel like nothing in this world is worth living for. It's such a crush because that that progress has been totally has been gone, and I'm being dramatic, but it's true. It can be. That's the tough thing with these this genre, right? Is that that's just what these games are, and so yeah, I'm confident I will get those runs going to progress a little further than I have been.
I mean, if you want to look at it this way, Luke, at least the g- the gameplay story, like the story of the game, reflects the exact emotions that you are going through as a player, right? Every
Yeah.
time you restart, you have that moment of where because she's conscious of what's going on, and she constantly keeps like finding like versions of herself that are going through the same sort of like I'm crushed, the weight of the world is on me and I can't do anything. I'm stuck in
Yeah,
this loop doing the same thing
it's
over
true.
and over. And very similar to Dark Souls, like she's going hollow on the inside from this repetition
Hmm.
without success, right?
Right.
So if I if you keep with it,
I'm gonna
I
keep
think
with it. I keep playing it like I don't think I've played it every day, but I've played it almost every other day, and I feel good. Like I'll have a moment where like, hey, let's go for it, and sometimes I'll play for it for like 3 hours, and it's like, okay, whatever, I didn't make it. We still like I feel like I improved on my skills. And there's other times where it's like I just have that short patience. So I just need to find a good time where I'm nice and relaxed. I'm not stressed going into it. I have that clear mind, and I can just get it. But what I want to ask you guys actually is this game in terms of difficulty and accessibility, I that's where I kind of want to turn the conversation, and then kind of selfishly I want to ask for some tips that you guys might want to share. So this game got a lot of press when it released, in terms of it being a challenge, right? Not everyone's an Adam Palooza over here, just like one shot in the third biome, whatever, brushing the dust off the shoulders here, but you know, it is challenging. That has been a consensus that it is, um, you know, some people have found it difficult to progress in it, like I have, and that there's a question of like, okay, adding save states, would that change the game? And then there's that argument of like, well, that could possibly uh, that kind of ruins the vision that the developer had for this game, right? They want that it was designed to be played in cycles or runs, and it plays into the story of the game, I'm sure, right? With your character is crashing on this planet over and over again, and I don't know how the story unfolds, but I'm sure that is part of it, right? It is that gameplay mechanic of running over and over again. But when we talk more of accessibility, so the other side of it is like, yes, it is challenging, but there's this, you can't save it. All you can do, and the game actually gives you this warning when you boot it up, is hey, in if you're in the middle of a cycle, you put your PS5 into rest mode so that you can pull up the game back up and continue your cycle. Otherwise, if you completely powered it off, whatever, or close the game down and reopen it, you would have to start a fresh new run, obviously. Um, so, what do you guys think of that? Do you think there is an argument there uh, in terms of that? Because there's some people that don't necessarily have an hour to sit down and complete a whole entire run, right? Some runs can last upwards to 90 minutes, right? An hour and a half just to get through one biome, if you're lucky. So, what do we think of that?
I for one can't really say too much. I am as far as like visual, audio, and like with my hands, I'm fine, right? I don't have I have both my hands. I have great vision. Um I can hear fine. So the it's really hard for me to say as like not a disabled person whether like the challenge is too hard for those sort of people. But as far as like difficulty as just an average player for to a casual player, I think that yeah, maybe there should be a save, not a save state. The sort of the thing that Nintendo does, where you can save it, but as soon as you turn it back on and open up that save you had is deleted, and just so you can save your place, right? So if you're in the middle of a good run and it's you've been playing for 2 hours and you're like biome 5 and you're like really stoked and you think you're doing good, but oh shit, you got all of these other obligations you got to do. For me, my kids come over and they want to play games on the PlayStation, and I can't be like, "Oh, just I'll make you supper after I finish my run." I I have to literally like, "All right, I got to stop doing I guess this is it. This is the end of the run." And so I have to wipe it and
Yeah.
have them open up a new game, right? And so having that save state so it goes, "Oh, you left off here, continue or restart a run." Having that option would be a nice change so I can I can game a little without having to, okay, I know I'm going to have my kids tomorrow. I better finish this run or just die so I can move on, right?
Yeah.
I think something like that would help a lot, especially just for like the people with time management problems. But I don't, as far as the other kinds of accessibility, what visual and options for people who have difficulties using a controller, I can't speak to that.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah, it's tough. I kind of get it. Yeah, if there's a way to keep people from that, you can add sort of like a save state without letting people cheese it, like, oh, I'm gonna save here, but if I die, I'm gonna do something to load this save back up and start from where I left off, because I do think that defeats the purpose and the vision of the game. And then kind of the counter to that too is yeah, if you're going straight from bio 1 straight through biome 2 straight through biome 3, the runs are going to be pretty long. Um However, there is permanent progress that carries over between each run, right? Like we were kind of saying, once you get, well, essentially once you unlock a biome, you can get there much faster, in subsequent runs than you could before, because you have that permanent progression that carries over. So your runs, as you play more, are going to get shorter, and you're not going to have to go through biome 1, all of biome 2 to get to biome 3. It does shorten, it does tighten up a little bit, and there are ways to sort of create shorter chunks of runs. However, again, like James was saying, if you have family, someone else wants to use a PlayStation, I definitely see the problem there. I am fortunate that I don't really have that problem. My wife has no interest in the PlayStation, and my son doesn't really. He's typically, if he's playing a console, it's probably the Switch. So I don't have that issue right now. So I mean, again, I guess I'm kind of speaking from a place of privilege where I didn't have to worry about that, but I'm at a point now where my runs are fairly short because I'm, just, I mean, granted, I'm looking for very specific things at this point. So it's like, if I don't get it, then, and I die, it's no big deal. I reset, whatever. So the runs for me are actually fairly short right now as I'm trying to do a little bit of a scavenger hunt. Um, but as far as like difficulty goes, again, I personally don't find it all that difficult. I think if anything, if someone was complaining about not being able to play the game because of how hard it is, I think there's a really nice tool that they could do. They could take a page straight out of the book of Hades, essentially, where Hades has a mode that you can turn. I think it's called God mode or something, right? It doesn't
It
make you
is.
invincible, but what it does is it gives you a permanent 20% damage reduction, and every time you die, that increases by like 5%. So the more you die, the stronger your damage reduction is going to be, the easier it's going to be for you to get through a run. So they could do something similar to that, or they could say, okay, we're going to turn on a mode where you have health upgrades carry over between runs or something. So you have more health. Like there's tweaks that they could make to make it easier because there is no difficulty setting in this, right? Everyone is playing on the exact same difficulty, so there are gameplay mechanics that they could add in that wouldn't be, necessarily okay. Here's an easy mode, but here's something that will give you permanent stat increases or something similar to that that will make your next runs easier. So I think there are things that they could do without making the game easier from a difficulty standpoint.
Yeah, there was the reason why I wanted to bring up the accessibility thing is because uh, I saw a little bit of chatter of it on Twitter, and then kind of funny, Greg brought on Steve Saylor, blind gamer, to talk about it a little bit specifically with Returnal, and it kind of just like made me think about it in a way. And it every time that a big game like this comes out, I feel like the conversation of accessibility should be had on some level, because we've already hit a point in the industry where accessibility options have been like, there's a foundation been laid, right? There are some games out there that have done some really great things when it comes to accessibility, and that should just be like a staple now in games and in systems, right? So yeah, the fact when you have a really challenging game, there is that debate, but like, these people, again, depending on their disability and how they're impeded, it can vary to person, but they're definitely going to have a more challenging time playing the game than any three of us. So yeah, give some of those things if you know that the game is already has that tough, uh, difficulty curve for people that wouldn't have any things inhibiting the way they play. So yeah, I just wanted, I wish that they had something like that. And the thing is it's harder to add it in after. These developers need to think of these things ahead of time, because it's way more difficult to add in things, because it can totally change all the systems underneath it just by changing, something like increasing the font size, or adding a colorblind mode in, or something like that. Like, it could just break the game apart. So I just I hope that Steve Saylor, those people keep having conversations over games like that, and it's not to like drag Returnal into like, oh, they don't have any of that there, but it's the conversation started because of how the game is, and with that challenge. So I think if like, just have like the options there, because then you can open it up to more people possibly. But then again, I do see what you're saying, Adam, when it is the vision of the developers. They had this intention of a game being played a certain way. um it's tough, so I don't know, do you guys think they're going to update the game and add those things in?
I think they might. I know they had they commented on, what was it, the Reddit thread of everybody complaining about it, and they did say like, we hear you.
Hmm.
Nothing's changing right now,
Yeah.
but just keep enjoying the game. I think at that point, as soon as they've spoken up about it, they kind of have to do something,
Right.
even a little something,
Yeah.
right? And I know it's such a funny subject, because it's like that challenge of like accessibility versus the artistic integrity, and I just really hope they can find a way that can blend them both,
Yeah.
because I I don't think difficulty should gatekeep people from playing a game. And
Yeah.
like I'm a terrible gamer. Like I'm not good at games. The only thing that helps me win games is the fact that I'm bullheaded enough just to keep trying,
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
trying. I've beaten all of the Dark Souls games. I've beaten Bloodborne, but God, if I ever had to PvP actual players in that game,
Different
I'd be
story, yeah.
destroyed. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree. Like I again, yeah, I don't want because it's a really good game, and just like the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games, like yes, they're very challenging, but the difficulty does gatekeep people, and it's a shame. Like, but they've never, that's their vision and that's what they're doing, and I'm not saying that that's right necessarily. Like, I think there should always be a way to allow people to play through the game. I think the problem with Returnal is if you take that element out, the dying and repeating thing, you're going to have a very, very short game. On the other hand, as it is now, for a lot of people that are playing, it's becoming a very, very long game for them to play. And there has to be a bit of a middle ground, I think. So maybe like kind of what we were saying before, like when you go to another biome, like if you just kind of, if you, let's say you find the door to get the biome to within the third room, you get in there and it gives you a proficiency bonus once you get in there to kind of help catch you up to that biome's level. So they could do other things. They could give you free, relics that would increase maybe some of your stats, or they could give you free health upgrades to go along with it. I think there are things that they can put in this game that would allow people to be able to find it a little bit easier, but still maintain, the challenge of the enemies within each area, but just giving you more tools essentially for free if you need them between, at the start of each of the biomes or whatever. So it's just an idea, and even looking at Dark Souls, like I don't know, and that just franchise in general, I don't know what they could do to make it more accessible and like maintain their vision of the game. I'm not sure what could be done there aside from maybe just a difficulty setting, but maybe that's what it is. Like maybe there just need to be difficulty settings in every game.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I don't think having a difficulty setting in Dark Souls would change most people's experiences. I think even on easy, it should be like the enemies still have the same attack patterns. Maybe you just have like you absorb a bit of damage, right? You have like a percentage that gets ticked off from each enemy attack, and it allows you to take the few extra more hits that a regular player would be knocked down at, right? And maybe that's all they have to do with this one, right? Like you were mentioning, having items, like a few items at the beginning of a biome. Well, occasionally you run through the on one of your runs, you'll run into one of those machines where you have to spend your currency to get a power up. Like maybe it's um, a 15% damage reduction or cooldown reduction. Maybe you find more of those that don't cost anything, because occasionally you run into them, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
on an
Yep.
easy mode you can have it set so more of them show up like outside of the shop.
Hmm.
They're the free version rather than the you have to spend obliques or whatever they're whatever the currency is called.
Yeah.
And that might be a way to make it a little more accessible.
Yeah, those are all great ideas, and if they implemented any of those things you guys mentioned, I think that would uh it would help me. And the thing is like my runs are so inconsistent. It's not like it's the same spot I'm being challenged by. It's just like it's luck of the draw. I've had some really good runs, um, but it's just yeah, it really depends on those drops, how much currency you're making. There's so many little systems in there, so I think I just need to like go through them and like focus on all of them and just like grind those out every room I can. Yeah, I think like because I in the second biome, I got to the like top of the mountain or whatever you want to call it. So that's got to be like pretty close to the end of that biome, maybe. Like I was like I'd progressed even at the top. I went into two rooms past that, so like I'm like so close. And then yeah, anyways, let's talk a little bit about the PS5 DualSense and some of the, um, things like haptic feedback and the triggers. So what's really cool with this game is the adaptive triggers, and it's really cool because basically when you are aiming the gun, you're using left trigger like you would normally, or wait, yeah, like you would normally in a game. And when you press it, it basically the trigger goes half down, and there's like some tension preventing you. Yeah. So if you're watching the video version, James has it right
Oh,
here. So it depresses like half the way down, and then if you push it all the way down, there's like a click almost. Um, that will actually use a power up for whatever weapon that you're using. When it's all the way depressed. So that's kind of a cool function of like going back and forth. You can shoot from the hip, you can press down that left trigger, it will bring up your reticle, or you can press it all the way down, get that power shot or whatever. So what do you guys think of that? Is that a cool thing? Adam, you said that at the beginning you weren't really sure about it, but then as time progressed you kind of got more used to it and kind of liked it.
I hated it at first. I hated it so much because I was always accidentally triggering my alternate fire,
Yeah,
or after I've already used it and I'm pressing it down and like you're waiting for it to recharge and I'm like, why am I not shooting anything?
yeah.
It's because it was trying to use my alt fire and it wasn't available. So I had to really get used to feeling that sort of pushback in the middle of the trigger press. And, it really took some getting used to. I mean, in the end, yeah, I kind of I got used to it and I kind of came around on it a little bit. I still feel like maybe it could have been mapped to something else because I feel like there's plenty of buttons still left on the controller that could be used for an alternate fire. So I don't know that it's entirely necessary, but it is a good showcase of what the
Hmm.
controller can do. And I think we're going to see a lot of this in all sorts of games, from Call of Duty to really any kind of shooter, Last of Us
Yeah.
games, Horizon Zero. Like the applications are endless. Ratchet and Clank, I'm sure we'll
Hmm.
probably see something similar. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it works. But yeah, I did come around on it a little bit. It's still like maybe not the most favorite thing. There's probably an option to turn it off if you really want to. I didn't bother looking for it. It was really fine, really. So, yep.
Yeah, Pirate Man in Twitch chat says it's like a fuller version of the GameCube shoulder buttons, but now with 20 years of being more of a normal thing. Sounds super cool. Yeah, that's a good point because they also GameCube, I forgot they were kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, they
Look
were.
at James is
Mhm.
just pulling out all the controllers.
He's like a flight attendant with the
Yeah,
demonstrations he's doing
exactly. Yeah.
too. It's like the captain's talking and he's like
Yeah.
doing the little clicky with the.
I loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. And yeah, it did take a little bit of getting used to because yeah, my brain and my brain is old and it takes a bit of time to learn the new tricks, right? But yeah, after I got used to it and just realizing, oh, I could just tap a little bit for my shoulder or for aiming down sights and then hold it down for that special. I loved it. I've been talking about it, like saying like, "Oh man, if they can just integrate this into other games." I play a bit of Apex Legends every now and again, and me and my buddies always complain that the grenade button is set to like the D-pad, and you have to like pull out your grenade
Yeah.
and then do it separate. And it's all because they swapped the grenade button in most games for your powers or
Right,
whatever
right.
in the game, right? Because each character has powers. Well, now just tuck their grenade button on the back of one of
Hmm.
these triggers, and oh, it's just going to be so smooth. So this game,
See
I
how
feel like,
often people accidentally throw grenades then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
well, maybe you switch it around so your specials are on the end of
Yeah.
it, right? But yeah, the it's just such a nice little feature, and I think that it's like you're tucking two button presses into one move, and if they work um, synonymously with each other, like in Returnal, you're going to be aiming down your sights to use your gun anyway. So to pull it down even further to unleash your special, I think just makes sense. But
Hmm.
if it was like hold it down a little bit and you aim down sights and then pull it all the way to jump, I think that would not work at
Yeah,
all.
right, right.
It would drive people nuts. So I think it's all a matter of finding like what would work best with a half press compared to a full press.
Yeah.
But I
It,
think it's brilliant.
it'll be interesting to see if there's any games that let you map different functions to like the half press and the full press and see what kind of comment like what if there is someone that maps the half press to aim down the sight and the full press to jump. Like I don't know, maybe that
Madness.
could end up being a really useful, option or combination. Be interesting to see what people come up with if that ends up being a thing.
Definitely, yeah. I think we're gonna see like we're definitely gonna see this at least for the well for the lifespan, whether this dual sense meets Sony's expectations or not. Every first party game from here on out is gonna have try to utilize that some way.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was cool and like honestly like I've been playing. I feel like I've been playing mostly my PC. I think you're in the same boat, Adam. Of kind of playing PC primarily, and every time I go back to the Dual Sense, it's um, like feeling the vibrations in it and like the rumbles and stuff like within Returnal is also really cool. Like the feedback that it gives you and how it vibrates and I don't know, it really feels more immersive than what you got with the DualShock 4. Like
Yeah, and it is too because when you're in an area and it's raining in Returnal, you can
yes,
feel
yeah,
just the very
that's a
slightest
great
pulses of the
point.
rain
Yeah.
like on the controller. It's really fantastic. I love the controller. I don't love the form factor of it.
Hmm.
It fatigues my mostly like my pinkies as I hold it. I don't
Yeah.
know about anyone else, but I definitely feel that fatigue in like I don't know, like the lower portion of my hand.
Right.
Um, but I mean, it's fine. But yeah, I can't do like super extended play sessions with it without feeling a little fatigued. But I love the tech that's in there, and I think it has added definitely a layer of immersion in the games that it's been present.
Definitely. Yeah. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is going to be the next one that we're gonna. That's going to be another showcase for that controller. So we'll see how they.
Well, they just had that state of play where they jammed the
Oh
functions
right,
down our
yeah,
throat. It's
yeah,
like, oh,
exactly,
by the
yeah,
way, your DualSense controller, and then 5 minutes later, also, if you
yeah.
use the dual,
So there
like,
you
oh
go.
my
It's
god,
already
like
it's already
you,
happening, and the
it's
game's not
happening.
even out. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna work towards wrapping this review up. So I don't know if we maybe want to go around and talk about dislikes. Like we've kind of been jumping all over the place here. Normally I'm more structure, but we've kind of been. I've liked the flow of things tonight. So I don't know. Like, do you guys want to have any like dislikes that you haven't highlighted yet that you wanted to mention?
James has some really good ones. I would like to hear him give us his dislikes
Sure.
because they're
Let's
good. They're really good.
let's do it.
Okay, well, the primary dislike that really just kind of threw me off was it's so there's an adrenaline system in the game. So you every third enemy that you kill without taking damage, you get a point of adrenaline to a maximum of 5, and at each point you get a few bonuses. And it can be like you have a better chance at reloading your weapon. You have a you don't take you get a shield on one of them sometimes, and I think they change it up the last ones every once in a while. I've noticed different ones, but regardless of that, every time you hit a point of adrenaline, the screen flashes red with a sound. And when a screen flashes red in a video game for me, I think I'm getting
Sure.
damaged.
Yeah.
So I'll have that moment of freak out, especially if I'm in the middle of like an intense fight. I'll see the screen flash red and I'll dodge randomly and usually put myself in a worse situation. But it's not me taking damage; it's the adrenaline ticking up. And I don't know why they chose red as the color to flash the screen with adrenaline. I felt like that's a little
It's not like,
it's reverse
decades
nice.
of video games have taught us that that means danger.
So that's one complaint I have, and
That's
I
fair.
have no problem if they come back and change it to a blue or something like that. The other one is when you run out of energy or whatever, or when you use your ultimate and it has to charge back up, and it takes a while. And if you actually hold down the button all the way, you can hear it louder
Mhm.
and if you don't, and it comes through the controller. The sound comes through the controller, which is cool. I like that immersion. I like that controllers are doing that now. It makes you feel a little more connected to the game, especially if you're not wearing headsets. But when it finishes, it is actually a really loud ka, and I think that something is attacking me or jumping out at me, and it drives me nuts because like I'll be like moving through a fight, or I'll be like trying like looking for another enemy that might be in the room, and that goes off and it scares the shit out of me. So that's my other complaint, is the fact that they probably could have used a softer alert telling you that your weapon's like charged up. Even a bing would have
Yeah.
been better than the
Yeah.
ka-chunk that they
Yeah.
give you.
Yeah, I will say the adrenaline thing never really bothered me. I totally get it's 100% a valid point. It just never really gave me that sense like it did for you. But I will say when your alternate fire charges back up and that sound plays, yes, that has gotten me multiple times. It's like, what was that? And it was, oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
just my alternate fire charging back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there was like I think I haven't had a lot of time to like pick apart this game as much as I intended to for like a review. Obviously, completing it was like the big thing I haven't checked off yet, but um I really haven't had an I really liked how the story was starting to unfold, but um I do think that like with this game, and I don't know how the story goes. Maybe this changes. Maybe you guys can correct me on this, but because with my runs, having done so many of them, I've encountered scout logs, and I've gotten some backstory on a little bit of the story, but I'm still very unknown to what's going on. Um, but also, the time between my last scout log to now was like such a long time ago, so it's like I can't remember like what her last kind of like discovery was on what's going on and what this world is and who these sentient beings that she's encountered, like, I just feel like it disconnects a little bit. So I don't know if later in the game, with that time kind of shortening, like you said, Adam, with less time having to go through everything, like it starts to fill quicker and the story doesn't feel as disjointed. But that's just kind of how I am with the story right now. And so that would be like a dislike I have, but again, could be corrected if I get to see what that plot is. Did you guys like the story overall? Like, is it really good? Some of the way it's been going.
Like I haven't finished it,
Yeah,
but I
fair.
know, so I haven't seen
Yeah.
everything, but I've absolutely loved everything I've seen about it. Like, and then that's the funny thing is like I came in, that was the lowest thing on the totem pole for me,
Right.
was was really knowing the story. Like, oh, there's you see the clips of the old house and stuff like that in the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't care about it. Let's see the monsters. Let's see what I'm going up against. But the more I'm playing, I find myself playing for those moments,
Yeah.
playing for those like those brief little sections where you're gonna see like, oh, an audio log, and she's gonna talk about like her mental state at that like time, and it's always about where you are. It's always referencing like kind of the room. It's not just uh, a blatant statement. It's always you're always progressing, and I really like um, seeing her, and she'll respond to it, which is really cool too, right? It's her responding to her own audio log, and something about that just like is she's like, I never want to be that person. I never want to get to that state of mind. And the irony is
She
she
already,
has
yeah,
done that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah. It's really funny, yeah, hearing her comments on the audio logs that she finds, because yeah, all the audio logs are her. At least the ones I've encountered. And yeah, she'll make comments on something. It's like doesn't make sense, and it's like what that you. It made sense at one point because that's you lying on the ground dead. So, yeah, it's for our video watchers. I almost said video listeners, but for our video watchers, I totally had B-roll planned and just pulled it up now. Like this is like one moment in the game, or there's like you had just mentioned the old house, just totally misplaced in this like alien world. That part is really cool, and that's what I want to know more of the story of. Like, there's this kind of astronaut that is like following you, and I'm really interested in seeing how that goes because as you guys know, I'm a sucker for a really good story, and so if this game has that and I can make it to the end, roll credits, I'll probably look past all of this, these last 15 hours of hell that I've had to work through at the beginning of this game because the payoff was worth it. So,
I'll just say this, Luke. If you beat the third boss, the third biome's boss, there is a story beat after that that will really invigorate
yeah,
your
Yep.
desire to
Mhm.
finish
okay,
the game.
fair
Sure.
enough. I might have to do that tonight then.
But yeah,
We'll see.
the house sequences are really good. I enjoy. There's a lot. One of my favorite things about the game, and you figure this out really quick, and we've talked about it with the audio logs, is that when the game starts and you see the ship crash and everything, we all assume this is our first trip onto the
Yeah.
planet. That you know you're like, here we go, we're about to explore, and then we find the audio logs, and you can see the bodies lying around from
Yeah.
the pre. So it's like, oh, this isn't the first time she's been here. Like this, we're coming in the middle. Who knows how many runs like she's had already here on this world, and we're just experiencing it how like down the line from where she started, and that really I thought was so cool. That was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I guess it had to be done, right? Because how else are you going to get audio logs?
It's a good point. Yeah.
Because there's no other people that have been here before.
Yeah. It's really cool because it gives you two perspectives. You're hearing her as she's relaying her thoughts, and then you get the afterthought of not knowing the context of the situation. It's
Mhm.
really neat. Um, okay, cool.
Oh, do we want to compare stats?
Oh yeah, good
Oh,
call. Let's do that now. So yeah, in the ship, when you start off, there's a portion where you can kind of go over to a computer, and it basically pulls up all your stats, play time, how many rooms you've explored, how many enemies you've killed. So James, why don't you go first with sharing some of your stats?
oh, okay. So I've played for a total of 1 day, 2 hours, 50 minutes, and well, the seconds just keep ticking up, so I'm gonna ignore the minutes. But yeah, so about 26 hours. Um, I've eliminated 100 and oh, sorry, that was from the last hour. I've eliminated 120 hostiles, 3 malfunctions, and over 1,000 oblites collected. Accumulated data, I have 32 deaths. I have explored 211 areas. I have eliminated 2,197 hostiles. My max adrenaline reached is 29. I have 439 successful overloads, 71 malfunctions, and 56 parasites.
Not bad. All right, Adam. I'm saving mine for last because it's like the worst.
All right, here we go. It's flex time. So keep in mind, I have rolled credits on the game, and I've done additional runs after the fact. So the death count that I give you is actually somewhat less than from the time that it took me from start to finish, or not really finish because I still need to get like the true ending or whatever. But I have 22 hours, 41 minutes in to the game. My accumulated data, I'm going to save my deaths for last. Areas explored 243, hostiles eliminated 1962, max adrenaline reached 29, successful overloads 424, malfunctions 23, parasites 17, and my deaths again, this is with post game
Okay, okay.
18.
Oh my gosh, that's really impressive, dude.
So
18.
probably figure like 13, 14
Wow.
before rolling credits. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay, here it is, everyone. I'll save my deaths for last because that's definitely my worst stat. Okay, so I've played for just shy of 14 hours. Um, Keep in mind, only on second biome, have not cleared the second chapter of this game. Um, I have explored 123 areas. I've eliminated 1,839 hostiles. Uh, Max adrenaline is 17, successful overloads 65, malfunctions 31, parasites 26, and my death count is currently at 57 deaths. So, yeah. It's but you look at it compared to our hostiles, Adam, like you have a much better KD than I do. But my kill count is pretty good considering that I'm only on the second. You could it goes to show
so
how much I've been.
so my lower kill count though is a result of me going through several biomes only one time.
Well, sure, yeah, but that's what I'm showing is like you can
Yeah.
see that I'm stuck in these biomes because look at how many
Yeah.
enemies I've killed with literally still several more biomes to complete. So,
Hmm.
oh boy.
Okay. But yeah, and I'd like to see like the percentages of like research he has on all of his enemies, right? Because the more you kill the
That's
enemies,
right.
the more research you get on them, and the more information like you can see in their level in the story. So really, Luke, you're getting a much richer
You are. That's right.
experience in the lore. So
Yes.
you're
Uh-huh.
you get to
I'm
He's not
bathe in.
wrong. He's
yeah.
not wrong.
Yeah, I'll just be the king of lore then. So, oh my goodness. Well, yeah, it is true. Like there, it's just the sheer amount that, and the thing is I don't know. I'm hoping that there is a part in the game where like in the other biomes where I don't have this challenge because it's just like ever since I lost that edge or like lost that first boss fight, I just haven't been able to like pull it together. And I've watched tip videos, I've like checked out strategies, I've watched other people play it, and I'm like, what really comes down to is like I just cannot avoid the projectiles. Like my platforming. That's why I never really played a lot of 3D platformers growing up, is because I'm not good. And when you get into those situations where you there's like you would fall to your death, like you have to kind of hop to different spots while things are being shot. It's just like too much at once for me. So I just got to take it slow and easy, and we'll get there. And hopefully, next week on next week's episode, I can say that I'm in a different biome at the very least.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
All right, well let's finish off this review. I don't know if with our reviews we've typically kind of given a rating out of 10 just to kind of give you guys the listener an idea of what we think. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll start with you, James. You said this is possible game of the year contention. So having not completed it yet, what as of right now, what are you feeling like?
I, I, I I'm one of those people that hate numbers. I hate
That's it.
numbers
That's
because you
fair.
see
That's fair.
so many. You see a game set at like a 10, and you're like, oh man, that's a 10. But then like years later, you see how dated and poor it was, and so I don't know. I just don't.
Just
I
know
don't.
that
I'm
this
not a
is
huge fan,
yeah,
but
that's fair. You don't have
I'll
to give a
say a
number if you don't
9.
want to. Okay.
It's a 9. It's up there with a. It's a fantastic game. I'm absolutely loving the immersion. I love the everything from the controller to the sound and the visuals. Like I was saying, like I'm a sucker for anything that's remotely Giger-esque, and they have this in spades. So yeah, and the gameplay is just buttery smooth. So I'm giving it a solid 9. I'm not giving it a 10 or anything ridiculous like that, but there are some flaws that I think they can fix. And biggest one is accessibility, and I really hope they do fix that. So other gamers can experience the excitement that I've been experiencing while playing it. So Yeah, I'll give it a 9.
Awesome. Adam?
Yeah, I think that's a good score. I think I would also give it a 9. I like most things about the game. There's very little that I dislike about it. If anything, I would say that I just kind of wish there was more at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe potentially the
Could
biggest
be
flaw
two.
that I have with it is that I just want more, and it's so good. The story is weird but intriguing. Like it's almost kind of like Death Stranding in the way of how weird it is, but in a good way. Um, I really enjoy the story of it. It's yeah, it keeps me wanting to learn more, and it keeps me wanting to keep playing because there's more that I need to unlock and see and uncover and unravel the mysteries surrounding everything. So even though I rolled credits, it doesn't give me the whole picture, and I
Right.
want to see the rest of that picture very badly.
Nice.
So
I've said this whole thing. I haven't completed it, so I definitely can't really give it that final number score. But as of today, playing it, my thoughts are feeling like a 5 or 6 because it's been frustrating. But
wow.
that's it's that's just my personal opinion. Now, if we're talking as a game and we're talking of like what makes it up and being kind of more objective there, I think it's really awesome. And yeah, the 8 or 9 category, like what review scores it was getting makes sense. I'm glad that like Housemarque had this game that came out and did really well with review scores, and it's kind of putting them as a studio on the map, even though they've been around for a while. Like, the people are now knowing who they are, and if this is what they can make, like, man, this studio could turn into like a huge powerhouse in the future, as long as Sony continues to fund really cool projects like Returnal, something that is a unique and familiar, all the same. So yeah, that's where we're at. But asterisks. We're gonna hopefully beat it, and I'll give an update on the show. Okay, well, thank you everyone to listening to our review of Returnal for PlayStation 5. Uh, we had a lot of fun talking about it, and like I said, we're gonna talk about it on the weeks to come. Um, Remember, tomorrow, May 13th, twitch.tv/games are fun podcast, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Lord the King S. Dot and me, we're going to be talking about Pokemon Snap, and we're going to be sharing off some of our favorite pictures that we've snapped. So make sure you check that out. Um, and I think that's it. So James, thank you so much, man, for coming on this show. We wanted to have you on for a bit. I'm glad that we could finally have you on. So thank you. And where can people catch up with what you got going on?
Well, you can follow me at on Twitter and on Instagram, both of them at Butlord Primus. Sounds the way it's or spelled the way it sounds.
There you
It's
go.
Butlord Primus. And then you can follow me on my Twitch channel, which is BLP Entertainment. So uh, twitch.tv/BLP Entertainment.
Perfect.
And yeah. Oh, thanks, Moobot, for the.
We got you
There we
covered.
go.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to have you back on again sometime soon. Maybe you and I can talk about a Resident Evil Village review episode or something like
Ooh,
that. That'd be fun.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Great. Adam, how about you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, all at AdamPalooza85, so you can find me there.
Great. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at LukeAllenArm. And then you can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Luke the Llama. Actually, if you're listening to this right now on Twitch, I'm going to stream Village again tonight, I think. But go watch Butlord first, because I'll be on after him. So make sure you also follow the show on Twitter at Games Are Fun Pod, on Instagram at Games Are Fun Pod. And you can also join our Games Are Fun Discord server. We are having conversations every single day over on our Discord server. James, you're over there. You're talking with us. So it's a great place to be if you want to hang out with James, Adam, and myself, and all of the rest of the GAF crew and community. You can join by going to invite.gg/games are fun, and you can join. talk about games, movies, TV shows, share pictures of food, whatever we want. It's a really fun place. So come and join. All right, James, Adam, thanks guys for joining me. And this has been Games Are Fun podcast, Returnal review, and we will talk to you on our Pokemon Snap review. We'll see you later.